thanks for joining us today for our May 2021 Tech Insider Update. Thank you for joining us today as we run through some of the changes that have come through from Microsoft over there in the last couple of months. Just a quick upgrade for those who don't know us or are familiar with JourneyTEAM. We've been around for about 28 years. We've got over 110 employees. We've completed over 350 projects in the last 12 months. 90% referenceable customers, 14 gold, silver competencies. We're a two-time Partner of the Year winner, and we've been around doing this for quite some time. This slide here kind of gives you a show of all the things that we do from a technology perspective, and these are some of the things we're going to be touching on today as it relates to Microsoft technologies. So with that, I want to introduce the presenters that we're going to have today. My name is Mark Mickelson. I'm our VP of Client Solutions. We have Eric Vines, who will be presenting our Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement Director. Eric Groff, our Cloud and Microsoft 365 Director. George Sagan, a Dynamics 365 Architect. Preston Reynolds, our Business Intelligence Director. And Kip Sorensen, our SharePoint and Collaboration Team Director. Our agenda today, we're going to touch on Cloud and Office 365 to start, Exchange Online updates, Azure AD and Intune updates, touch on Microsoft Teams, SharePoint Forms, Planner, and Project updates. Then we'll move on to Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, Sales and Marketing, and then on to Field Service and Customer Service. Then we'll finish up with Power Platform, Dynamics 365 Business Central, and Power BI. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Eric Groff to get started on Cloud and Office 365.
All right, fantastic. We're going to jump in here and beat a dead horse. The first one is, remember, if you're still on old hardware or old servers, TLS 1.0 and 1.1 is still going away. I put some common errors here that you may see if you're not on the updated OS and you get connectivity errors. So just be aware of that. This is still rolling out. They're about done with it. So that's a quick update on just general connectivity to Office 365, okay? So I'm gonna jump now into some more specific services on Exchange. The first thing here, if you haven't seen the new Exchange Admin Center, you've been living under a rock, and it's okay, but it's not all there. There's a couple of really slick features though. One of my favorites is this Exchange Online PowerShell from the browser. Super slick and super handy, right? There's a little icon at the top that will let you launch PowerShell. You do have to have an Azure storage account for this to get wired into. So you'll need an Azure subscription with a storage account. If that's new to you and you need help there, let us know. We can get you squared away on that. There's a few missing features. It does include some new features like tenant-to-tenant mailbox migrations. If you're doing mergers and acquisitions, you want to move mailboxes between tenants, this might be attractive to you. Come talk to us if you have questions. Okay, there's a bunch of red stars by that. There's a learning curve, and there's things that aren't in the new tenant, even though it's GA compared to the old one. So don't expect it to be perfectly functional and feature parity, but definitely start using it and getting to know it. There is some slick things with it, okay? Another thing on Exchange, spoof intelligent management updates. So this is the concept where Microsoft is detecting that bad guys are trying to impersonate or spoof your CEO or your CFO or other important people inside your business. They've made the updates to reporting. This is rolling out at the end of this month in early June. It's easier for you guys as administrators to configure and manage this. You do this through the threat policies page under the allow block list there. And a big update here is they've increased the maximum number of people that you can protect from spoofing from 60 to 350. And so that's a nice update there for bigger orgs, okay? Next is reply to all storm protection. When this was first announced, it was like, great, unless you have 5,000 people on the reply on the to field and people start replying, this doesn't even affect you. They've lowered this down to 2,500. So for all you mid-sized organizations that couldn't take advantage of it, this now applies to you. And there are some other settings you can modify here via PowerShell. So be aware that reply to all storm protection is more available now, okay? Azure AD updates, some cool stuff here. First one here, temporary access pass. Microsoft has been on a journey for years to eliminate passwords. This is a critical piece of their solution to do this. It answers the question, how can a user be passwordless if when I set up their account, I still have to set a password? Temporary access pass is a setting on the Azure AD account of the user that you can generate this. The last person I onboarded here at JourneyTEAM, I went down this road, so it's pretty slick. That I didn't have to tell them a password. They were able to get authenticated, get enrolled in multi-factor, etc., and go passwordless without needing to know a password up front. So pretty slick solution there, okay? You do have to use the Microsoft Authenticator app. So that is a requirement, okay? I'll talk a little bit about that in the coming slide. Next feature is Azure AD authentication for servers. So think about this. If you're spinning up a Windows server in Azure, 2019 is a requirement. You can check this little checkbox that says, I want to log into this server with my Azure AD account. I do not have to domain join the server to an Active Directory domain or to Azure Active Directory domain services to log into this box. So pretty slick little feature. This feature has been in Windows 10 since Windows 10 shipped. I could Azure AD join a Windows 10 computer, and now it's in the server OS. And you can technically do this with a non-Azure VM as long as it's running server 2019 OS. Okay. One little gotcha: if you're using a Bastion in Azure to connect to your servers, that's not supported through this flow yet. Okay. But pretty slick, awesome new feature there for servers in the cloud that need connectivity through the directory. All right. Next setting is the conditional access updates. There's some really slick stuff that Microsoft has done here. The first one is you can now require a password reset on the grant controls. And so if based on conditions, you can say, whoa, okay, I want the user to reset their password right now. And that requires multi-factor, the Microsoft Authenticator to go through that flow, but that's a new feature on the grant settings there, okay? Another nice one here is that under user actions, they've had register security information. This is where you can put conditional access around how people enroll in MFA, such as they have to be enrolling from the corporate network, okay? There's now a new action there of when you register or join devices to Azure, that activity can be defined in a conditional access policy now. Okay, that helps to govern who can actually register devices and join them to Azure AD. Okay. Next thing on conditional access is geolocation based on GPS versus IP address. This is a big deal. How hard is it for a bad guy to appear from any country he wants? About 10 seconds. Not a big deal at all. So now there's a setting in the named locations of Azure AD conditional access that lets you determine the location by the actual GPS coordinates of the device, okay? So this integrates with the Microsoft Authenticator app, and Authenticator reports back to Azure for this user's identity where on the planet this device is physically sitting based on GPS, not source IP. So if they're VPN'd in somewhere, it doesn't matter. The
Like
GPS
secured VPN when it hijacked or
Correct. Correct, exactly. So now you get the true location of the device independent of their public IP that they're maybe popping out from. Okay, so pretty slick there. And the last point here, if you're not using the Microsoft Authenticator for multi-factor and Azure AD, you are totally missing the boat. Okay, there's a ton of features that Microsoft is using from a security posture that will come through that Authenticator app. If you're doing SMS as your MFA, stop and use the Authenticator app, okay? Microsoft will also have a technology coming up soon to help nudge your users so that they can better get to that method of enrollment. So, all right, I think that the quick update on Intune, this is a big deal. This new filtering ability. All right, so this is the ability to deploy policies, profiles, applications, and filter the audience of who's going to get said app or policy to a tighter audience. Okay, so you can see the properties here. I put a screenshot in of the properties that you can filter off of. So if you want everybody in the sales group, but I just want people that have corporate devices in sales, then I can build this little filter that says device ownership is corporate, and then apply that filter to the policy, and it gives you another layer of granularity on managing and deploying Intune apps, policies, profiles, etc. Okay. There's a nice little link there that describes what that is. So that's my updates. I'm done in 10 minutes. I went over. All right, I'm done. Who's next? Teams, Kip, take it away.
I'll talk faster than you.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's get into this. Some of these items you should see in your tenants, or some are in the process of currently rolling out. I'll try not to give updates for kind of pie in the sky stuff that Microsoft is still in development, right? So we'll kind of focus on the immediate things that affect you guys. So the first is Viva connections, and this is more or less a glorified taking a SharePoint intranet communication site and showing it within the Teams client. We've done some testing of this within our test tenant, within our even within our production tenant. We're having a little bit of issues. It's still a little buggy, but it's getting there. And Microsoft is still providing some additional updates around this. But the idea is that we can now serve up an intelligent SharePoint intranet from within the Teams client. There's some technical details around how do you pull this off. You have to have it be a home site and a bunch of other things. If you need some help, obviously reach out to us, but be aware that this is on the roadmap and that decision needs to be made, right, for your org of, is this how employees get to the intranet, right? And what are the pros and cons? Because there are pros and cons, obviously, to most feature updates. All right, next. Another family member in the space of Viva is Viva Insights. If any of you jumped the gun a little bit and got the Viva Insights app within your Teams client, it pretty much stayed connected, which allows you, it like reads your emails, it sees your team members. Last time you had one-on-one follow-ups, and it's kind of suggestive content of like, hey, did you reply to this email? And hey, did you schedule this one-on-one? And then the protect time was IA kind of hopping into your Exchange calendar and saying, hey, you have these block of times, do you want to block it as focus time? That's what you had. Recently, Viva Insights provided some more stuff. So now we have the ability to actually praise colleagues from within this environment, which is okay for our clients that are using our fist bumping employee recognition tool. It's superior to this, I have to say. But regardless, if you're not using that web part that we've developed, this is kind of a nice secondary kind of tool. The other thing that this does is it has a virtual commute. And this is kind of cool. What it will do is say, when you wrap up your day, Viva Insights will actually look at your assigned tasks and say, hey, did you complete these things? Then it will show you your calendar for tomorrow and say, does that look accurate? Are you wrapped up for today? And which is really neat, because at JourneyTEAM, we've been really trying to promote deep work. And one of the processes is finishing up your day, right? Being able to finish your work, wash your hands clean, and be able to go home knowing that you're ready for tomorrow. And now that's kind of showing up within Viva Insights. So take a look at it. You can just download the app and then it'll be available within the Teams client. Other Teams updates from within Outlook. You can actually share an email and its attachments from within Outlook. Kind of cool feature. Just wanted to call that out. But next, we have history within Teams. So if you look in your Teams client in the top left-hand corner, you have the navigational elements where you can go forward and backward. And then if you hover over the back, you'll actually see like a breadcrumb history of previous tasks and things you're doing in the Teams client. It's been rolled out, super cool feature. A lot of people don't know about it because it's kind of minor up there in the UI. Second, meeting details is getting updated. So if we have this enabled within your tenant, you can now download the attendance of everyone that attended the meeting. No, it's not going to magically know who was in the room. So it's going to go off of who attended the Teams meeting. And then if there was a recording, the recording will be made available from within this screen as well. So kind of a new improved feature. And there's additional items that Microsoft plans to release on this page. Next, a couple things on meetings. So the Meet Now has evolved and changed within the Teams client. So I can do a Meet Now, get the link right away, send it to someone. I can change the name of it and then start the meeting. Before it was always like Meet with Kip. was kind of like the default name, and so now we can kind of control that. And then we also have Meet Now within Outlook. So I can, from within my Outlook client, I can just hit the Meet Now and schedule a Meet Now. I don't have to do that necessarily from Teams. And then future things to consider and just kind of keep on the horizon. Approval templates, they're coming. If you're not using approvals within Teams, it's very ad hoc. It's kind of like, hey, I need approval for something. And it's not like a custom form. It's just like, whatever, I'm going to send it to Mark. Mark approves, and now it gets documented. Microsoft is going to be rolling out templates. So now we can start saying, okay, well, this is maybe a time off request, or this is a new equipment request, and have custom forms within Teams to handle those approvals. So it's in its process. It should be getting rolled out fairly soon. And then, as we've already kind of regurgitated the Kool-Aid, right, around Viva, Topics is not 100% there yet. Learnings isn't rolled out yet. Insights isn't 100% there yet. So just kind of keep the pulse on Viva and what's progressing. We've played with Viva Topics extensively, at least on the SharePoint side. We're quite impressed with what we're seeing, but it doesn't yet exist in Teams. So just kind of keep those on your radar. And this last slide, Roth threw in here because he thinks other people use Mac computers. So just in case someone else uses a Mac, this is important to know. You can now use your computer sound. Welcome to the modern world of using computers. So all you Mac people. All right, next, Yammer. We'll make it quick. I just have two updates really. New insights around Yammer. So we can get now insights around conversations within Yammer and insights around the events that we schedule within Insights. So more of a kind of administrative, who attended, active users, non-members, are people reading messages, and etc. So kind of a cool administrative interface. And let's hop into SharePoint. So this app bar on the left-hand side is going to show up in your tenant, and you may not like it. And if you don't like it, you can disable it until October, and then it's going to be forced upon you. So I would really, if you guys haven't addressed this yet, start figuring out how you're going to use that app bar. Now, sites, news, and files, those are kind of cookie cutter. They're stuck. You don't really have any flexibility. The home icon, which is the top icon, can be used to navigate users to the home page, or you can use it as a global nav. But as a lot of our clients have already been using, they use a hub for their global nav. So what does this mean? And how does this kind of play into your ecosystem? But this app bar will show up on all SharePoint sites, regardless of their association with hubs. So start thinking through how you plan to utilize that navigation within your environment. If you don't have it in your tenant yet, it will be. SharePoint lists, a couple new improvements here. So the people picker has been updated within lists. Another item that you'll notice within the Microsoft list area is integrate. That is ultimately where you'll be able to integrate and provision off like a Power BI report that just auto gets generated off the list data. This is also where Power Automate will move up under, as well as Power Apps. So it's just a slight little adjustment on the UI, knowing that that Power BI kind of that, I don't know what you want to call it, like startup wizard is coming soon. So next, page analytics has greatly been improved within SharePoint. You'll see these analytics at the page level as well as at the site level. So take a look at it if you haven't already. It's pretty slick. It's a really clean interface. And then a few other updates just to kind of be aware of. Rules and lists, those are coming. We have the ability to configure headers and footers and lists and libraries. The people card has been updated. Compliance Center, we're going to start being able to leverage syntax and models to actually apply retention labels to documents. If you pull up a SharePoint page, you have the immersive reader, which actually grab the content from the page and actually dictate it back to you. And then the other thing I mentioned is visualizing Microsoft lists within Power BI. And then future considerations to kind of keep on the radar, SharePoint site templates, targeting around events using images, sticky first columns on SharePoint libraries and lists, and then Microsoft, and I think this is really critical, they're going to start providing UI indication for folders that are associated to Microsoft Teams. So then that way you know it's the library that Teams is kind of mucking with, and not just one of your libraries. This has always been an Achilles heel when we talk about rolling out SharePoint. A quick update on JourneyTEAM side. If you guys are not aware, we have a lot of clients. We do a lot of intranets, and sometimes these intranet projects can be fairly extensive. But we also realize for some organizations, they almost just need an intranet in a box so they can get up and running and run with it themselves. So we put 3 intranet packages together to allow organizations to kind of get a launch pad, get an intranet in place, and then we empower and enable them to take it from there and take it further and enable them to actually manage it and configure it themselves. So to learn more, you can literally Google JourneyTEAM intranet packages and you'll find it, or just reach out to your account rep and we can get you the details. And I'm almost done, I promise. All right, forms, really quick form updates here. We're shortening the URL. There's text formatting on your forms. Forms polls within Teams is greatly improved. Before it was very buggy. It's gotten a lot better. Updates around Planner that you guys should be aware of is we have more labels and colors that are available to us. Microsoft is giving us recommended plans because, you know, a lot of the time we're never doing work, we're just wandering around and we need recommendations from Microsoft, so really important bullet item there. And then the ability to move tasks between plans. I actually do think this is highly beneficial. And then a couple of new things coming up is the ability to create tasks from within messages and Teams, and then to move tasks across plans in different 365 groups. That's a new feature as well that's coming. And my last update is around project. You can use roadmap reports now within Power BI. We can create attachments on tasks. We can receive email notifications. If we're building timelines, we can now export those out to PDF. So keep that in mind. And when I say project, I'm talking project for the web, not old school project portfolio server. Done.
All right. Good old customer engagement. I've just picked a couple of things to go over today. If you have time to read through the 400+ page update of the Wave 1 2021 release updates, feel free to. Or if you have specific questions, you can always reach out and ask us. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. But really quickly, what I wanted to call out and highlight, if you use the mobile app, you probably saw that there's a new icon for sales or for Dynamics on your mobile device. But a cool feature is that now, instead of just field service being able to receive push notifications, you can actually set that up for really any app, but they have one out in Power Apps that you can use for the Sales Hub, which is really cool. So if you wanted to be able to use your, the relationship assistant or the assistant cards, you can configure your own custom ones, and you can also use the ones that are out of the box. But things like, oh, hey, I'm in the area and I'm next to an account, you can now get a push notification sent to your mobile app or your mobile device from Dynamics saying, hey, did you know that, Contoso is just down the street? It's very cool stuff. They've updated a number of other things in the mobile app as well in terms of search and the navigation, and the forms now load faster, and they're a little bit easier to interact with. So very cool from that regard, and excited for that update on the mobile side. Okay, I picked a couple things for marketing. They've updated the customer journey editor. So if you haven't updated the marketing app in your tenant and you're using D365 for marketing, I strongly suggest you do that. One of the cool things that's now available through that is the ability to use a custom channel. So if you use Instagram, or you want to use your SMS account through, let's say, Twilio, then you can create custom tiles that you can use in your journey to say, hey, if somebody opened the email and they have a phone number on file or a mobile phone, then send them a text saying, hey, I'm really glad that you did XYZ, or can't wait to talk to you next week. Very cool feature. It does require some some development and some configuration. There's about 4 steps to go through to do this, but highly effective and highly customizable in terms of the different channels that you can place into the customer journey. There's also some that are out on AppSource that you can download. The other thing that's really nice now in marketing is they've overhauled the email editor. They've cleaned it up. They've made it so that it's less glitchy. beforehand. Sometimes you'd try to add an element and it would sit there and you'd have to press it 50 times. You don't have to do that now. The other thing that they've done is they've reduced the number of clicks that you have to do to insert elements, so they've cleaned that up. They've also added more functionality to the preview and the testing. So as you go to do your ABs or send out test mails, they've improved that experience. And then lastly, they've moved over the HTML editor component and have improved how that is rendered and how you can use that. So very cool updates to the marketing side. There's also tons of other things that they're working on with like Teams live events for hosted webinars in your marketing events. I didn't include that. There's still a couple things we're waiting on the Teams live side. Next Tech Insider update, we should have more info on that. Okay, switching over to field service. And specifically really anything within the unified resource scheduling. But something that is very cool is that you can use Dataverse and any of your air quote appointments that are booked within other apps. So think Outlook, service activities, a planner date, any of those things that can show up on a calendar can now be added to the schedule board. So what that means is that if somebody puts appointments on their calendar in Outlook and that status is busy, the schedule board can and will recognize that so that you don't book bookings over that person's busy times that come from Outlook. Very cool feature. This has been long awaited. I'm super excited for it. This also works again with customer service and service activities. So that if you're using those kind of, from some of what I'll call legacy features, and you're looking at whether it's field service or anything that leverages the unified resource scheduling, so this could be project operations or any custom entities or tables that you've set up for scheduling, it now will work with Outlook. So super cool functionality coming out there. And speaking of project operations and resources, little call out earlier to what Kip had mentioned of Project for the Web. Project operations was previously project service automation within Dynamics, is now available, and the upgrade path is ready for us. So if you're using PSA and you're looking at making the upgrade to project operations, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to talk through the details of that with you. But something that is very cool is that now in your project management within Dynamics, for projects that you've estimated, you can now use a grid, Kanban, or timeline or Gantt control to add your tasks, to control the effort, manage the timeline, and book all of your resources with any of those three interfaces. So much better experience. You don't have to wait for that old schedule tab and that work breakdown structure to load. This is streamlined and again working for Project for the Web. So all of that same functionality in terms of timelines to PDF and those things. These projects are already connected back out to Project for the Web. And just because we're kind of talking about those things as well, when you set up tasks in D365, the mobile and the web Outlook apps, those will auto recognize and sync those into your Outlook app for you, so that if you set up something in Dynamics, you'll notice there's that little dot telling you that category that's now been tracked to Dynamics and it started there. This has been around for about a half a year now, where it's working really well. But if you want to have more of that cross-platform collaboration and capability, you can set up Dynamics to auto-create tasks, and then if you want those to make sure that they're showing up in people's Outlook or mobile app, you can configure it to do that. All right, and then lastly, a couple things related to Power Platform. Obviously Dynamics is part of that, but there is the capability coming finally where instead of just taking what Microsoft has given you in terms of a single lookup fields that can look at multiple tables, you're now able to do that. So you're able to come in and set up an account and say, hey, I want this account to look at both, account and contact. That's been the previous most common multi-table lookup. that's been in existence, but now you're able to come in and set what those relationships are and the values that you want to allow those to be set at. So things like regarding and customer and party lists, you're now able to set those up. So very cool, long-awaited functionality. And then lastly, if you use Power Automate a lot and you were going through and pulling your lists and setting your variables, there is the ability to take environment variables for the environment that you've selected and actually keep those between environments. So if you're capturing records, it will keep those goods, save so much time. The 1,000% is a very scientific number that one of our developers gave back. I actually don't know if it's actually 1,000% more useful, but extremely helpful if you're, again, moving between environments or you're having to set a number of variables. Those now are able to be used on your environment. You set them once and then they're able to be leveraged over and over. Okay. And then lastly, we do a maturity model here at JourneyTEAM. This is where we can come in, we assess where your organization is at, how you collaborate, what your processes are. We map those back to the 5 levels of maturity, and then we help you understand where your different departments or teams are at, and then what are the steps that you can take to advance levels of maturity. We do this and we apply it over your ecosystem of systems. And so we'll say, oh, hey, you're using Excel for managing your sales pipeline right now. If you go to D365 for sales, that would move you from, let's say, a level 1 or a level 2 up to a level 3. And this is nice because it lays out a very clear, concise roadmap of the changes that you need to make within an organization and within your teams so that everybody is aware of how everyone works together. So we do offer those. We offer that as kind of a package, and it's extremely effective in helping companies understand where they're at and where they need to get to. All right, I'm done. Jorge.
All right. So the big news, of course, every quarter is or twice a year is release wave 1 and release wave 2. Release wave 1 is coming out. We have some new features that we're pretty excited about. I just went and cherry picked a few of my favorite off the list. There's probably over 50 of them that are significant, and most of those originated from the user community, and they've been doing a good job of listening to what the users want. The first one that we're pretty excited about is now we can move one Business Central organization from one tenant to another. This is really good for companies who are doing mergers, acquisitions, divesting companies who want to be able to stay on their Business Central org, but not have to create a new one and then do a full data migration. This allows you to just call the support team and they will move your environment from one Azure AD or one tenant to another. The next one that we're pretty excited about, this is along the lines of trying to remain gap compliant, but also being able to make corrections to the dimension values that come across through on the GL postings. Dimension values are analytical data that goes on the GL transaction, but are not part of the GL count number. So according to GAP, you could edit those. Previously, you've not been able to. Now you can edit them either transaction by transaction, or you can do it in bulk. Additionally, controllers who don't want users to be able to edit those transactions, or perhaps want to place a time window of opportunity of when you're allowed to make those changes, perhaps when you finally are ready to publish your financials, you want to lock those down, and the controllers can do that. The next feature that we've been pretty stoked about, a lot of companies are using the ERP system for their core accounting. However, they might have some sort of a system that their operations team is on. This is pretty common in things like field services, where your ops team is on some sort of a mobile external platform. And when inventory is needed for operations team, they've provided some really good hooks now to make it easier to manage the perpetual inventory and the inventory valuation. All your FIFO, LIFO, average costing can be managed on the ERP system, but we can pass transactions from the operations software, such as purchase receipts that were performed on the other system can get passed into the ERP system. And we can include the foreign keys for those data so that we can, with reports, tie the transactions that got posted in the ERP system and hit the general ledger to the source transactions. But it is honoring all of the cost layering rules that you've built out inside of Business Central. And this is just a huge step forward in making it a lot easier to do those integrations. Another feature that we're really excited about, there's been a lot of need for customers, on the next slide here, to attach other documents to their invoices, supporting documents, perhaps on a large field service order or some project. You need to attach a list of all the materials that were used and their serial numbers, not perhaps at a much greater level of detail than is required on the invoice itself. And so now you can attach those to the email and or to the documents, and then have them automatically attached to the email that has the customer's invoice. So that's just kind of my cherry-picked handful of features that I'm really excited about. Release Wave 1, of course, if you're already a BC customer and you're really interested in getting some of these features, you want help rolling out Release Wave 1, give us a call and we can arrange to help you create your migration environment in a sandbox and safely get your database upgraded. Next up, we've been really excited about our Sherpa program, seeing more and more participation in that. This is a expert-guided self-implementation program for Business Central. It uses the same exact high-quality, well-scripted and rehearsed workshops that we use on our full-scale implementations, but we do it in a classroom setting where multiple customers attend, and you're able to save a lot of money on the simpler implementations of Business Central by pooling together with other customers and going through the implementation process at the same time. It's our exact same classes, exact same materials, same quality experience, just done with a couple other customers at the same time, usually classes of 3 to 5 clients at a time. On the next slide, an area where we found the Sherpa program to be especially useful has been for customers who are on GP who want to migrate to Business Central. We have some migration utilities to help easily move the data, and often the GP users do find it much easier to implement BC, and so we're able to take them through the Sherpa program on all the core features. And then if you have any exceptional processes that you're using that are not included in Sherpa, maybe if you do project management or field services or something a little outside of the core, we can just add those on as Sherpa Plus add-ons. All right, so that's it on ERP this time. And next up we have Power BI.
Awesome. Last time we had this meeting, we went overtime, and the Power BI stuff was at the very end. Power BI stuff is still at the very end, but we're not overtime. So this is a good change. All right, first big update, which is not terribly big update, but Power BI Premium per user is now in general availability. So if you've not heard about Power BI Premium, this is probably something you might be interested in considering. At $20 per user per month, it is still the cheapest possible tool on the planet as far as cost goes for the capabilities you're receiving. Not a single competitor outside of Microsoft, or even inside of Microsoft. Not a single competitor in the world has what Power BI can offer for this cost. And it's additional $10 per user per month if you already have an E5 or an M5 license. Here are some of the cool features that come with Power BI Premium, and this is either premium per user or premium a premium capacity that you purchase on a reserved or on a yearly basis. So Power BI Premium includes these features. You got paginated reports, so if you're used to using SSRS style reports, that's what we're looking at here. You've got 48 refreshes a day instead of 8 You get 100 up to 100 gigabyte model limit size instead of a gig. You've got the advanced AI components. You've got the XMLA endpoint for your read-write connectivity. This is super cool if you need to be able to do complicated stuff with your model. All the data flow capabilities that are available come in premium. They're not all available in Power BI Pro, but they all come with a premium license or premium per user. And then you can analyze your data stored in an Azure Data Lake. And then one more super cool feature called goals. And this is big. Microsoft just announced this earlier this month at the Business Application Summit, and it is awesome. So we're going to talk about goals for the rest of the time here today. So there are a couple of big challenges when it comes to goals, and the first one is, generally speaking, there's just limited connectivity. It's extremely hard to connect to hundreds of systems that house your data. And it's not even necessarily about the ability to connect to those systems that's hard. It's also hard to combine that data from multiple systems, add it up in your calculations, and try to figure out what's really going on across your system. So there's usually a lot of manual effort going into this. Goals are naturally collaborative, and it takes a whole team to complete most goals. And most systems just aren't built around the ability to collaborate on those goals, especially when people are working remotely. Results are usually shown in a far too simplistic way. So you may know, for example, what your total sales are for the month, but which product line is doing better? Is there a sales team member that could use some help? The goals that we're going to talk about today in Power BI really help address this very nicely. Goals need to be integrated with where you do your work, so that's natural to go and view those goals. Rather than keeping goals off in a separate system, they should be easily accessible by those who need to act on their performance to those goals. And then the last big problem that we see people experiencing when trying to work around goals is that most people want to create business processes that allow them to automate actions based on the performance of a goal. So if a goal falls behind, for example, it would be helpful to trigger a business process to notify team members and begin the process of correcting the inputs to that goal. So goals in Power BI are now in public preview, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of what it looks like. So first, this is the overall view of a goal, the new goal UI, I guess. Right up here, we've got kind of an overview of what's going on in your goals. The next area we have are main goals, and we'll talk about the components within each of these. These are sub-goals that will eventually roll up into making the parent goal. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Next, you've got an owner associated to the goal to help address collaboration, as well as saying, hey, you're responsible for covering this piece, and then allowing them to watch it. The next bit here is a status. This status right now is manual, and you can just select it as you edit your goals, whether or not it's completed, on track, at risk, behind. There are some rules coming in the very near future that will allow this to be automatic, which is super cool. You can see what your current value is and kind of see the progress over the last couple periods and a due date. And then lastly, this is where collaboration starts to get really cool. We have the ability to look at notes and provide notes and look at, actually go ahead and push the next one. We can look at a more in-depth view of how your goal has been trending. And then right below that, you can add a new check-in to provide some clarification or some reasons potentially why things are on track or why they're behind. So that's the super quick review of what the layout is here in goals. And we're going to do a quick demo on how to create goals. This is going to be super fast because we were going to be pressed for time, but everybody else talked really fast today. So I hope you can keep up with me. But just a quick reminder that Power BI Premium per user or Power BI Premium capacities are required to use goals. So there is this little caveat here. All right, here we go. First, you're going to go to a new scorecard, and you're going to give your scorecard a name. We'll call it the sales goals. Then you're going to create a new goal, give your goal name. This one we'll call overall sales. You can choose an owner, and you can either just type in a goal that, or the value of your goal, or you can connect to one of your reports that you've already built. So I'm going to connect to my sales amount by year right here in my visual, and it will pull in this value and automatically update. I'm going to put my target in for 8 million. I'm currently at 5, so I'm on track. The start date for this goal was the beginning of the year, so I picked that as my start date, and my due date will be the end of the year. Hit save. I can now look at this, take a quick snapshot of what it is right now, but I'm going to add a sub goal, and maybe this is for my phishing department, if I had a phishing department. I can reassign this to another team member, say Jordan, for example, and then go to, again, pick that from our sales report. We can filter that same sales amount by year, but instead I want to look at the phishing team or the phishing department, and then notice that it pulls in phishing there. Hit OK, and now that current value is set to 554K based on the department we chose. We'll pick a start date for the beginning of the month, an end date for the end of the month, and then we can go in, and there's some extra settings here that will allow you to change when the review period is. So we're talking about this as a monthly goal right now. So that's kind of the quick synopsis of goals. Super cool stuff. And we've got a lot of implementation of these goals going on right now at JourneyTEAM. So if you're wondering how to get started in Power BI, we've got a great series of classes that start with Power BI fundamentals. And we'd love to come and teach this for your organization. It's the beginning of a 12-day series of courses that we can teach on Power BI to really get you and your users in deep on the technical abilities or capabilities of the software. Power BI is hugely powerful when it comes to helping you find analytics and insights of your data, and then combine data from lots of different sources, and then show people in a very nice way. So if you're curious to learn more about Power BI, we can talk to you more about that, or host a Power BI fundamentals class for your organization.
All right, well, that concludes our Tech Insider update for May. Thank you again for attending. If you would, please, since we've left ended a little early, you'll be receiving a survey shortly. Please fill that out. Those who fill that out will also receive a copy of the slides from the presentation today, as well as being entered into a drawing for a gift card. If you have any questions, continue to put those in the chat. We'll still stay on to be able to answer those. Or again, put it in the survey for us to reach out, or you can directly reach out to us as well if you have contacts at JourneyTEAM that you know to connect with.